YouTube, what is going on? It's your boy Buddha back in the building for another Last Cloudia unit showcase video. One that I'm excited to get back into. Excited to get back into Last Cloudia videos in general with the Buddha gang. You guys know I was on a nice little vacation with Lady Buddha. It is time to get back to work and start spotlighting some old units. We've started this kind of revisiting series that I posted, starting with Sage Emperor Zekis and then Shift Kyle. And then some of you guys saw my community post talking about how your boy Buddha got blessed from the RNG gods and was able to single summon the newest UR Apel or Apel, the ice arc that we just got off of Lennius's banner. So in my head, I'm thinking, what older revisiting units can we look at that will work well with this plus 3,000 ice damage cap? And after the poll voting, I think it was like 60% of you guys voted on ROVER Maddine. I understand why. Pirate waifu, she's definitely the most current out of most ice units we have. Ice units in general, ice DPS, is a very, very scarce thing in Last Cloudia. Of course, the best one that comes to mind is Christmas Lilibet, which I was also thinking about doing. However, I think I'm going to save her showcase closer to when she's going to be releasing next, when people actually get a chance to summon for her. But ROVER Maddine is available on every banner moving forward since she is a permanent unit. So with you guys voting, wanting to see what she can do in today's current meta, that's who I decided to 5-star, which we need to officially seal the deal by unlocking her ward. Gives us a nice ice damage plus 1%. We'll definitely take it. And with that, we now have a Buddha stamped 5-star Shift Maddine, ROVER Maddine. And now let's get into the unit summary. You can see we've got her at 110 out of 110, 120 board unlocked, Awaken 6. I actually enjoyed her kit so much when she first released that she was one of the few units that I decided to 6-star out of favoritism, right? Usually we just go to 4-star because it's kind of a waste of effort and resources to try and push the 6th Awaken. 106 SC to play with in this build. We've been able to pull her an extra 8 times on top of her initial pull for this account. She is a soldier type, which is going to be pretty standard, nothing too crazy to talk about there. Stat spread, she's got a nice base HP of over 7,300, 254 base MP, and a nice STR stat to start out at base with a little higher defense, just over 1,100, INT and MND below 1,000. Based on this spread, we can tell she's going to be looking like a physical DPS unit. Attribute resistances 25 to fire, 20 to ice, neutral to earth, very, very weak to thunder at -30, and then neutral to light and dark. Ailment resistances, she's going to be -1 or weak to poison, neutral to blind, +1 or resistant to silence, nil or +2 to curse, which is great, neutral to stun and resistant to illness. So quite a nice ailment spread of resistances for what she is doing. Looking at the abilities, we have her S1 flood trigger, medium area ice combo attack. S2 is Maelstrom, frontal medium area long range ice combo attack with an ice tornado around the unit. And we know that this does not mean around Maddine, it actually means around the target enemy. There's going to be this little tornado that spirals around them, dealing a nice little AoE effect, which is very enjoyable. Her S3 is Stinghorn, charge and deal a frontal wide area ice combo attack. Not quite a gap closer, but once she gets into that kind of cone line of sight, she's able to charge right into the enemies. And her special Black Leopard, powerful ice combo attack against all enemies and lowers enemy ice resistance. Very nice, since we want to see some kind of resistance lowering for the element. Not quite so lucrative built into her special, but it's better than nothing, in my opinion. And then looking at her traits, we have the One-Eyed Pirate Queen. Physical attacks have a chance to inflict lock-on, enemy is more likely to be targeted, takes physical damage plus 27%, and slightly restores HP and MP to the unit defeating it. Ends if inflicted on another enemy. So this is just a really nice little support ability, since she inflicts this on whoever is targeted. As long as you maintain that target status, she will inflict this lock on, benefiting damage for herself and the entire team. Then we have Distant Seaway. Battle start, all allies recover SCT 10 seconds and get an STR plus 35%, critical rate plus 20%, and physical attack damage cap plus 2000 buff. Now keep in mind, these buffs are non-stackable with things like Brave, since this is STR plus 35%, with things like Critical, or any other units that give an icon buff to increase damage cap. I'm thinking of Tinkeely, giving her plus 3000, physical cap buff to allies. And by these traits, you can kind of see that Sea Rover Maddine provides a support, an offensive support to your team when she's on the team, both with this lock-on that she can inflict and with this Distant Seaway trait. The problem is, in my opinion, that with her fifth enhancement, they increased her abilities for this One-Eyed Pirate Queen, which I don't think was too crazy. If I recall, they only boosted this 2%, so it went from 25 to 27. And they may have added an MP restoration to this defeating an enemy part. I'm not quite sure. It's in the patch notes of some video I made back in the day. However, I think it would have benefited her much more if they increased the numbers for Distant Seaway, giving probably I don't know, a 40% to STR, 25 crit rate, and then a cap plus 4000 buff. I think that would have kept her much more relevant much longer in today's current meta. So just a missed opportunity, and she was outshined by Tinkeely quickly after, since while Shift Maddine can provide physical DPS on her own, it's just usually more beneficial to use a unit like Tinkeely with her plus 3000 physical damage cap buff. The fact that she doesn't give a cap on top of the better caps that we have available to us for support, it just makes her less useful once you have those tools and resources available. However, as an ice DPS, she can definitely hold her own and still be a useful unit. Thinking of the Maze of Tartarus, I think I solo cleared an entire floor with her. So when you need ice DPS, because they're so scarce, it inherently makes some of these units more valuable. In my opinion, Sea Rover Maddine being one of them. Now, if Last Cloudia decides to go on a rampage and start releasing a ton of ice meta DPS back to back to back in the near future, this video and opinion is going to become much more irrelevant. But we're in the here and now, so we're going to see what Maddine can do in today's meta. Right after visiting her innate skills, we can see that she comes with no magic skills, but she comes with these base stat ups: Fighting Spirit 2, Fighting Spirit 4, Crit up 3, which is nice to have innately, Advanced Aim Vitals, Illusion gives her a chance of evading physical attacks, Life Brave, we've only seen this on select units. The lower your remaining HP, the higher your STR will be, which is quite a nice ability, I'd say. Auto Speed, love to see this, just a permanent plus 2 to speed. Auto Haste, given that plus 25% to SCT charge rate. Ardor, Ice Drive, Ice Attack Raise 2 are going to give some nice damage modifiers in her kit for Ice. Ice Critical Raise, given an extra 5% crit is how I see it. Physical Weak Point Boost, now we have this skill newly renamed. That plus 30% when the unit or the enemies are weak to ice is going to come in handy. Help you achieve her damage cap that much easier. Ale of Victory, some HP sustain we see there. Pirate's Feast, giving that SCT for all stocks at the end of the wave, which you guys know I encourage the use of this skill all the time, so very nice she has that built innately. Sky High and Sky High 2, given nice damage modifiers, and I believe her S3 and S2 do pick enemies up into the air pretty reliably if they're flinchable. Piercing she has innately. Triple Impact, again, impact skills kind of taboo, not really interested in talking about them. Shockwave, gonna give some extra piercing to guard when that's necessary. Gunbreaker and Gunbreaker 2 are where her damage cap is built in. We do have that temporary boost. I forgot to even talk about that. Her trait 2 is a 40-second buff. It's not a permanent boost. That battle start can get a little tricky when reading it, especially when we have units like Sheeta, some others that I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but they contradict the majority meaning of battle start. Whenever you see battle start, it most of the time means it's just a 40-second boost or lower, right? Sometimes these effects vary. So you will lose that 2000 boost from her trait 2 after 40 seconds, but with Gunbreaker and Gunbreaker 2, she does have a permanent 5500 damage cap when you have a machine equipped. Quick Reload is a wonderful skill. I think she was the first unit to introduce it. When using a skill, there's I think it's a 25 or 20, either 20 or 25% chance to recover 50% of the SCT for that skill. So let's say your skill 1 needs 12 seconds to use it. You're going to pop it, and then you'll have just half of it filled immediately because of the skill Quick Reload, which is quite nice. Indomitable Spirit, another great when lethal damage is taken sustained skill. Tattered Sea Chart, battle start, recover 50% HP if HP was not full at previous wave end, and boost units' physical attack damage, more effective when less HP is left, up to 30%. So quite a packed skill right here, but very useful when it comes in handy. Revenge Heart, when unit is incapacitated, living allies recover medium HP and receive a defensive and MND plus 35% boost. Water Bullet, machine equipped, physical attacks, and special have a chance to deal extra ice damage and inflict a movement speed down debuff. We recognize that this chance to deal extra ice damage is one of these pursuit hits that I've talked about in the past. So these are going to be those fractions of damage popping off of your base hits or special hits, as we can see. Quite a nice effect. Definitely not going to complain. And that is going to do it for her innate skills built into her. Now, we know that her damage cap is not affected by her being a single wield unit, so no dual wield in here. We will want to put that on her manually. She doesn't have anything like Slayers or Slayer boost, along with no Proud Force, so we want to make sure to get some more sustain on her. But coming with things like Pirate's Feast and some very nice damage modifier, she has a lot of what she needs to perform very well, I'd say, just coming out of the box. But she will definitely need some help, like I said, in the sustain area. And to reach that full damage cap consistently, she will definitely need some more damage modifiers packed within her. So we're going to set up some builds for Shift Maddine, bring her into some events where I think she'll do well in the current Last Cloudia climate, and make our final judgments on Rover Maddine. So starting off with a general PDPS Shift Maddine, we're going to be taking her into Encroaching Dead. Wanted to start off just with the S1, seeing how many hits. We've got about 15, it looks like. Don't forget, we're potentially getting some extra hits off of that one skill that she has. However, with the UR arc that we're running, recently released with Lennius, she's able to achieve caps up to 20,999. With this particular build. Of course, there are many ways to increase cap further, but with this just solo Shift Maddine build, I wanted to see where she was sitting at. And while 20,000, I'd say, per hit is still very much below average, you have to compare units' damage output and especially their cap output different nowadays. You can't just look at 20,000 and then think of Shift Bayland at over 50k and think that she's doing absolutely nothing here. Because we're dual wielding with Maddine, you essentially have to multiply that 20,000 by 2 in order to compare it to single wield units. So thinking like that, you can get a better judgment of where characters are sitting at. So with the UR arc, which this is pretty much just a showcase of that just as much as this is of Shift Maddine. She's able to achieve below average, I would say, than the modern DPS that we're used to. However, her skills combo and feel very good when you're using them, as you just saw with that general PDPS clear. Very easy and pretty difficult free run of Encroaching Dead. Moving into a world boss, I just recently did a video on Shift Goroth, taking him into Galanova. Well, Shift Maddine is also a fantastic unit to take into this fight. for her DPS potential just because she's able to clear out these mobs in a similar fashion. With the team setup we're running, I want to highlight the fact that we are using what's essentially the most budget form of an SCT recharge strategy, right? That being the skill Spirit Breath, along with a unit that can spam Healing Wind, which is a very low-cost AoE healing spell, which activates the skill Spirit Breath, charging SCT by 3 every time you proc it. So you can see after we sped up the killing of the spirits, we have a nice stock amount, which we're going to just keep doing the same thing with Tinkili there, who's also helping shift Maddine's damage cap, don't forget, because we did lose the 2,000 damage cap from shift Maddine's trait here. I would definitely encourage people not to think that Maddine just sucks after her trait 2 expires, but it's definitely impactful. Excuse me, even with the damage increase from the UR Arc and Tinkili, being at a 19,999 damage cap, and Hail Sovereign's Ring, it's not good, guys. Don't get it twisted. But in a fight like Galanova here, you don't have the most meta options available. Now, we did just see the release of Mia, who, if you saw Tweaks' video, you should go check it out. He soloed this fight with her, so she's definitely much more of a definition of a unit that can just take this fight on, no problem, make it look a lot easier, I'd say, than Shift Maddine can, even with all these goodies. However, Shiv Maddine, as I've stated in the beginning of this video, is still going to be a very viable unit. After you've fleshed out some of your main hitters, your big units, and she's going to help you a lot in the Maze of Tartarus, for example, right? This is not a flex showcase to show that Maddine's still doing the same, putting out the same numbers as the newest units we've come to know. I mean, you can look at the global tier list and it clearly reflects that. However, because people don't really look at her that much, she doesn't get a lot of airtime. So I wanted to showcase where she can still be useful. And you gotta remember, the majority of the game is still not at that Maze of Tartarus power creep. So Shiv Maddine, if you start out and want to build her, because you don't care about re-rolling, I don't think it's a horrible idea, especially because she synchronizes with Trishula so well. And then finally, we're moving on to an arena showcase. And this is a bit weird. This is not what I'd consider optimal by any stretch. This is an arena guard piercer. We know that tank guard arena meta is very prominent for defensive teams. And a couple things here. Because Shift Maddine has a very, very nice crit package, it synchronizes with the R arc you can see we used on her, which is the, I think it's Sword Off the Coast or something similar to that name. It has a very unique effect that probably a lot of players overlook, and that is criticals breaking guard automatically. So what is the point of Maddine in this arena build here? It's simply to spam the S2, hopefully deal a bunch of criticals to the tanks or any other enemy units that are guarding, which create an opening for our meta DPS Shift Bayland. We have Mikasa there to do the amount of damage needed to get the job done, because I'm sure many of the players out there, especially new players who have breached into arena a bit, have noticed how annoying arena tanks can be. So I personally don't want to say this strategy was uber effective. I definitely took my fair share of losses when trying to record this showcase. I think I even included one of the losses in this next fight here. But I was able to, I'd say, maintain a nice little 50 to 60% win ratio, which is definitely nothing crazy. But I also want you to pay attention to the fact that we are running auto, right? I wanted to make sure to run auto, and I think I'm going to be doing that more often, because a lot of units in Arena can be made to look special if you're doing manual play. And not to knock anyone doing manual play, that's definitely a much better way to make your win-to-loss ratio increase. However, I think the true test of a unit's use in Arena is how well they can do on manual. You can see here when we're taking on a team that has no guarding, no tanks, we just get blitzed, absolutely obliterated. So it makes sense why she would be absolutely useless there. And that's why I wanted to point out that this is a pretty niche and specific setup for specific defensive team comps. But getting back on track, I want to start showcasing units on auto more often, just to see if their AI is smart or if I can find a way to manipulate it to showcase essentially if a unit can work decent in auto attacking teams and defensive teams, because obviously when you're setting up your defense team, it's only AI. You have no manual control there. So if a unit does have some kind of potential in the defense auto, then I think that's a pretty special unit. Of course, you're going to have your standout units that work incredibly well, or much more better, like Roy, for example. While he can be really great on defense, he's a much more dominant figure in Arena if you're doing manual attacking. But to my point, that's what I think I'm going to do moving forward with these showcases, is just focusing more on the auto aspect of fighting, because if a unit's going to be decent on auto, you can be sure that they will be great as a manual unit that you use, if they're your attacking unit, of course. We know that like control, CC mages, and then your healer/tanks are definitely a passive role. Whether you're on attack or defense, you just let them sit there and do what they do. But I was pleasantly surprised with this build I came up with and how it, I'd say, was able to open up opportunities for this team we've constructed to take out pretty annoying tanks. As you can see here, we're able to get through any units trying to guard. And with that being the last fight, hope you enjoyed these in-battle showcases of Shift Maddine. Now let's get to the conclusion of this video. That's going to do it for the showcase on our Pirate Queen Maddine. I must say I'm not disappointed in her performance. However, I will acknowledge that she's not taken over any top spot on the main team comps that I'm running nowadays. She is just a very solid option in a very scarce pool of ice DPS that we currently have in the game. And that can change very quickly if, as I said, Last Cloudia decides to go on a rampage of releasing ice DPS. Is there any reason to believe that they would start just releasing a ton of ice units for the next few updates? No, not really. However, we do know the summer unit is scheduled to be coming up, not this week's update, but most likely the following update is when we'll start getting news about who the potential summer unit may be. And last year it was Summer Alice, who was half ice DPS. And with the beach water theme going on, it's very possible and likely that it could translate to a new ice unit. Would also make sense because it's been so long since we've even seen one. I think Christmas Lilibet was the last ice physical DPS that we saw, not counting like the mage unit Lenius, who did release alongside the UR. Don't forget, the reason we ran that in both of the PvE builds is just because I wanted to showcase this on top of the older ice units that we currently have in the game. You guys voted on Shift Maddine, so this gives us a bit of hope, I would say, that we're hopefully going to see some more ice units since it took so long to get an ice cap raise UR arc, but I wouldn't hold your breath. Shift Maddine still being one of my fan favorite units. When she did release, she was a very nice surprise as a permanent unit compared to the DOH and collab units we were seeing during that time. So she still finds her niche uses in today's game, but this is definitely not a unit I would say is priority or worth rushing to build. She's not going to be performing, especially for a new account, as she would for late game, end game, an account that has a ton of tools, as you see my account does. So no, she definitely, I think, sits where she belongs on the tier list, but she can be very useful for accounts that are lacking other solid options for offensive support, and will have her uses in things like Maze of Tartars, where we need fleshed out rosters in order to beat certain game modes. So glad I was able to give her some spotlight, and of course let me know what you guys thought of this video in the comments below. Any of you guys still using Maddine day to day in particular ways that I didn't showcase in this video? I'm always interested to see what the community thinks. And that's all I got for you this time, guys. Like, subscribe, bell notifications, turn them on if you're new. I can see it in the channel analytics. You won't miss a video as long as you turn them on. With all that being said, y'all know what we say. Work hard, play hard. See you in the next video.